Hi, it's Linda with CreativePLR.com, and I wanted to show you one more tool in Photoshop. It's the brush tool, and this makes it so easy to create background papers with a little bit of texture, a little bit of design, or you could have a lot of design and a lot of texture depending on what you like. Okay, so I've got my fall palette, and it's the same palette that I've been working with. And here's my brush tool. If you don't see the brush tool open, you could go over and make sure it's highlighted in Windows. And so we're going to choose a brush. Now, I will give you one tip. Um, I have a lot of brushes, but I don't have them all loaded because years ago I had my color palettes and I bought some color palettes and they came with like 700 colors. I loaded them all up so I'd always have a choice, and it was overwhelming to have that many color palettes. But I had a lot of choices. And the problem I also had was every time I loaded Photoshop, it took a long time because it loaded with all of those brushes. It loaded with all of those color palettes. It loaded with all of the patterns that I had, and because it was just too big of a file. So now I only load what I'm going to use, and if I'm going to use it for a while, I keep it on, and if not, then I just delete it and I can load it back again. Okay, so here are my brushes, and one thing I want to do is I want to show you like a leaf brush. And the first thing we want to do is we want to add a layer because we always want to put whatever our brush is, we want to put it on a background layer that's transparent. So I can lay it over different colors and give different textured papers. Okay. Now think of brushes, if you're thinking of brushes like, well, I'm painting a room or I'm painting on a canvas and I dip it in paint and I swipe it across. Yes, there are brushes that you need to actually move across the page with your mouse or a stylus or whatever kind of tool you're working with. But the brushes that I use are more like stamps. And just like in scrapbooking, if you stamp something, you stamp it in ink and then you stamp it on the page. Now, I'm using a color white, but I could actually use one of the colors. And why don't I do that to show you what the difference is? I can actually use one of these colors, and when it's highlighted here, then I know that's what's going to be on my tool that I'm going to use to stamp with. So I'm going to go over here. I like this. These are my brushes that I've been using with my leaves on them. And I got, I think it's like about 1200 pixels. And so I'm going to start at the bottom. What I like about this is it just turns it and gives me different variations of a leaf as I work across. And so I get a kind of a random pattern, and then I can place it, and let's see, I can make it go slightly off the paper and overlap it a little bit and fill in some areas where maybe I don't have as much. Okay, and then I want one down there. Okay, okay, that's enough. You don't want to overwhelm it. Okay, so now I've got these green leaves on this orange background, but I also have it over a yellow background. It makes a great texture. I could use these for papers. Brown doesn't work because it was that dark green. The green looks great, but that dark red's going to look great too. Different look for different colors. Now, just like I showed you in another video, another thing I can do is at the top where I have my layer, I can highlight my layer where it says normal. I can go in and I can say overlay. And now I can go back and I get a very soft version. And instead of overlay, if I want to say hard light, I can do that. I can get a really soft looking color. I can use any of those filters. Oh, the red doesn't work as well. Yellow works great. I can use my difference down here and I get a more vibrant color. I really like that one. Like that one too. I like that one as well. And let's see. Here's one I did earlier using the white leaves. So you can see the white, and this is, that's an overlay. Let's do the same thing. Let's make it a hard light. We could use the difference. You'd use the difference. It changes the color. Subtract. I like the subtract on that. I didn't like this pattern. I didn't fill it in as well. Makes a great background pattern. It gives a little bit of texture, but you could actually use this in the background because you can soften it up a little bit, but it's not going to detract from what you're writing or anything else that you have on the page, and that's why I like him. Let's do one more and show you how. Now I want to start a new layer, and I'm going to do a different kind of brush, and I want to go over to, let's see, I think I want to close these brushes. There's some special effect brushes, but I also have some Christmas brushes, and I like that. Now, on this one, I am going to use the white only because it's snowflakes. And it's kind of random when they put it down, so some are going to overlap. So it's harder to fill in the blanks with this one. So it looks like I have a snowflake pattern. Yes, it would have looked better if I had a snowflake pattern in reds and greens, but the green, it looks great. The red, it looks great. It looks really good on that red. Let's see if the brighter red looks really good on that. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and even though we're creating paper on a 12.5-inch background, you don't have to keep it as 12.5 inches. You could cut a piece off there. You'll notice where it overlaps, it gets a little darker, so you could kind of play with that a little bit. Deliberately overlay them in some places. Okay, so I hope that you start enjoying Photoshop. You can get a free trial and try it out and see if you can create some wonderful papers with texture and enjoy. Until next time, keep creating.